if you had watched this show last week, we predicted that this was going to happen. Not that it was any crazy like Nostradamus prediction. However, we did say, based on multiple sources that we read and heard about on various platforms, that it was looking like Sherrone Moore was going to be named the sole offensive coordinator. He's earned it. 2 Joe Moore awards, excellent O-line every year. And so now he's going to be running as sole OC with the help of Kirk Campbell, who's going to be kind of de facto pass game coordinator, and Mike Hart, who's going to be contributing in the run game. So I'm curious, without, I bring up Joel Klatt. He's one of my favorites, not named Mark Rogers, and Isaiah Hole. And he talks about the whole, unified offensive coordinator versus having dual offensive coordinators, and just having one unified vision. And he was kind of hammering that throughout the season. Do you think, Mark, that just having that voice, and he's been around with the program, like that might help maybe just make things a bit smoother in terms of overall rhythm of play calling?
So I can't take too many shots at Michigan's offensive performance from last year. When you really look at it, I know that the Illinois performance was a little uneven. Of course, Blake Corum left the game. J.J. McCarthy missed some downfield throws, but there were very few difficult offensive games for this team. So again, Jim Harbaugh seems to be pretty comfortable with the idea of putting 2 guys in play and giving them roles and watching them navigate that. And then also, as we talked about before, Jim Harbaugh, to whatever degree, defining their roles and their working relationship and making that happen. But it only makes sense that if one guy's in charge, then you don't run into that potential issue, that you've got one vision, one direction, and you don't have that possibility of miscommunications or differences. And I also think Jim Harbaugh, being the person that has molded this, not just the program, but specifically this offense, and it's in his likeness, you almost have another offensive coordinator there in him. I'm sure he has tons of input into this offense.
And, I like what Steve, your buddy Steve Dace, says about this, where, when he was on the brink of being fired, he kind of said, okay, we're going to ditch speed and space. We're going to go to the 2009 Stanford playbook. And we're going to run that. And if I'm going to go down, I'm going to do what I know. And so can't argue with the results that it created. I mean, it's the last 2 years. I think at least part of it's because of that.
And Sherrone Moore's in a tremendous situation from a personnel standpoint. I don't know if we went year to year and kept going backwards, at what point we would find a Michigan offense that has the potential to be as productive and explosive and still efficient as this one, with a returning quarterback who I know took a little criticism here and there because it finished off with 2 pick sixes, but stripped those away. He also put up all those points in that game, brought them back to a 1-possession situation, played a great season, like a 22-5 touchdown to pick ratio. I think anyone would have taken that to start the season, when we were many of us making that judgment that, Cade McNamara is the safer selection. JJ is going to make more mistakes, but he's going to blow the top off the defense, provide you so much in the run game, all those dynamic things, but he's probably going to be a little more risky with the football. Was he really? And throwing only 5 interceptions for the entire season. And then with Ronnie Bell, obviously a big loss as the leading receiver and a leader, and Olu Batimi, who is just the best at what he does.
Crushed it.
He was just a tremendous transfer addition, as arguably the best center in the country. Sure, those are big losses, but when you compare those losses to what the typical contending team in a big conference has to face, those are pretty minimal losses. Like, they are loaded and ready to go. And I know Ryan Hayes a big loss along the offensive line as well, but they're loaded on that side of the ball. So he's in a good place.
Absolutely. I will say, there was definitely a couple of times throughout the season, including in that TCU game, where I think the coordinators might have wanted to show their Tuesday and Wednesday homework on Saturday or in the playoff game, and so that the Philly Ann Arbor special comes to mind, among others. So maybe with Sherrone Moore, because I believe Matt Weiss was the one in charge of red zone play calling and short yardage play calling. So with Sherrone Moore taking that over, maybe we can kind of go with the consistency and kind of just own what the program is instead of trying something that Michigan just isn't.